Team USA has just announced their starting point guard for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers, and the announcement has sent shockwave across the basketball world. Following Caitlin Clark's injury-plagued 2025 season, many question whether she could still compete on the world stage. However, what the coaches saw after her first week back on the court changed everything. Clark didn't only prove her health. She demonstrated that the entire Team USA structure had to adjust to her style of play, not the other way around. The consequences for both the Fever and Team USA are significant. Are you excited to see Clark back on the court? Leave some love for Caitlin in the comments.
There is a consistency when it comes to Caitlin Clark. And that consistency is that everybody is saying one thing, whether they change, the specifics of it, or they talk about defense, or they talk about other aspects. The one consistent theme is that she looks like herself and she is back.
When Caitlin Clark stepped into Team USA's training camp in December, everyone was looking for one thing. Could she still move like the player who set 62 records as a rookie? Her 2025 season had been a nightmare of disappointments. A quad strain developed during the preseason. Then another quad injury sidelined her for about 3 weeks early in the season. However, the groin pain in mid-July proved fatal. That injury kept her off the floor for several months. And when she suffered an ankle bone bruise, her season ended. 6 months without 5-on-5 basketball. That's how long Clark had been away from genuine competition. The medical personnel was aware of the risks. Groin injuries hinder your lateral movement. Ankle difficulties can affect the way you plant and cut. The coaching crew was paying close attention to every step she took during those first practice sessions. They needed to discover if she could still generate distinction between her urges. They needed to determine if the explosive initial phase was still present. Clark claimed to having rushed a shakeoff, but her body language during warm-ups revealed a different narrative. The smooth movement was restored. Her shooting form appeared precise throughout the early drills, but warm-ups are one thing. The game speed is drastically different. Sue Bird were paying close attention and observed something vital. Clark's iconic step-back three was still automatic. The timing seemed natural. The balance was present. Bird was fascinated by her rhythm, particularly the step back in transition that earned her fame at Iowa.
Caitlin Clark back on the court, super impressed with Caitlin just being engaged while she was out and getting back to being able to play. It was a combination of USA players going against USA players, and then also USA players going against the scout team, which was just players from small colleges all across North Carolina sort of helping out with that scout team practice. And, she looked like Caitlin. The step back three was there, the passes were there.
Other veterans were conducting their own evaluations. They saw Clark maneuver without the ball. Is there any hesitation when changing directions? Are there any compensation patterns that might indicate persisting issues? The international pace is unrelenting. Players must be able to take contact and keep moving. One incorrect step or miscut could expose a weakness that rival teams would ruthlessly exploit. Sabrina Merchant of The Athletic was present to witness the events unfold. She noticed Clark's passing abilities were intact. The court vision was still clear. Annie Costabile of Front Office Sports focused on the comprehensive health examination. Both observers left with positive opinions. But the real test would come during scrimmage action, when bodies began to fly and the tempo increased.
FIBA, naturally, just a lot more physical than other levels of basketball, even more physical than the WNBA. So having to see Caitlin go at scouting players who were, instructed to play at a FIBA level of physicality was interesting, considering how long she's been out and the fact that she's still ramping up injury-wise. But she looked good. She was just so happy to be there.
When asked directly, Clark declared herself to be 100% healthy. Bold statements from someone who had spent months in treatment. But her on-court performance supported every word of that allegation. When defending smaller guards, lateral quickness was evident. The explosion at the rim appeared effortless. She was concluding through contact and arriving to her destinations with no evident barriers. This health confirmation reopened doors that had been closed all season. Coaches were no longer only appraising Clark's potential contributions. They were assessing how much responsibility she could handle. The starting point guard position became a viable possibility rather than a distant ambition. Her physical readiness allowed them to begin developing systems around her specific skill set rather than working around her constraints. Something strange began to happen during the first scrimmages. Veterans who had been playing together for years became out of tune. Wnba caught one of Clark's passes but brought it down rather than keeping it moving. That is not what you do with Clark's passes. Her rhythm is at an entirely other level than what these players are used to.
Not playing with Aaliyah Boston, some of the bigs didn't know what to do with her passes. There was one time where she passed it to Wnba, and Wnba brought the ball down. It's like, you can't do that. This is not. You have to keep it up, right?
Straight up.
Just not expecting where that was coming.
Clark's passes were ahead of the action. She saw potential before they were completely created. Even the most experienced national team players were confused by the timing. Hammy was not the only one who struggled to keep up. Other veterans hesitated when they should have been cutting. They paused when they should have been moving.
Entry pass to Wnba, the kind of pass that only Caitlin Clark can make, and Wnba puts the ball on the floor as was described here. You'll see it. So some ball movement at the top of the key. Caitlin has it here, and she's gonna make the kind of pass once she gets it back here that really only she would make, and that's a hell of a post entry pass. But she did put it on the floor there, winds up getting blocked and going the other way. So, that's part of getting used to playing with Caitlin Clark. If you remember at her rookie year, a lot of her teammates dropped a lot of passes. I think they weren't prepared for, because she sees things before they kind of happen.
Clark's court vision was moving faster than the rest of the squad could process. She'd thread a pass into a seemingly vacant spot, knowing a teammate would be there in half a second. The difficulty was that her teammates hadn't yet reached that speed. They were thinking at their old pace, whereas Clark was already 3 steps ahead mentally. The coaching staff began to pay attention to these timing difficulties. Players were late for cutting. They were missing the windows Clark had created with her passes. When she booted the ball away after drawing opponents, teammates were unprepared for the rapid release opportunity. They needed time to comprehend what Clark had already seen unfold. Her logo's 3-point range was also causing complications. Defenders had to protect her from 30 feet away. That stretched the entire defense, revealing previously unknown passing paths. Clark was finding angles through fortifications that shouldn't have existed. However, her teammates were not used to having those spots open.
And coming off of this injury, this was kind of the first time that we all have seen her operating at 100% since her injury. And she herself admitted, even though I feel like I'm at 100, there's still a lot of things that a lot of rust that I need to shake off.
What did you see from Caitlin in USA camp being healthy?
Still there. That was one of my leads, was just, that shot of hers that we're also familiar with, very much still there. Her speed was coming back, which I thought stood out. Obviously, her timing on passing, that still was impressive.
Here's when things become interesting. The coaches were not attempting to slow Clark down to match everyone else's pace. They were not asking her to simplify her passes or wait for teammates to become comfortable. Instead, they began educating the other players to think quickly. They were preparing the team to move at Clark's pace. The entire offensive structure was being designed around Clark's capabilities. Her passing ability determined how the team spaced the floor. Her shooting range was influencing how they executed their sets. Her decision-making speed was dictating the pace for everyone else. This wasn't just about Clark adjusting to Team USA's style anymore. The entire team was evolving to maximize her unique strengths. Coaches were devising plays to take advantage of her ideas. They were developing new setups that leverage her range to expand the offense in ways they hadn't seen before.
It's been one day, but what did you see from her so far? Have you had conversations with her about how she can, continue to kind of get acclimated to USA basketball after being off for a while?
Yeah, so this is the first time I've coached Caitlin or spend any time with her was today. She's a terrific player, really locked in and focused. The conversation I had with her pre-practice was that this is going to be one of the most fun experiences she's had, because everyone at this level loves the game, a lot. And when you're growing up, in high school, not every player loves the game like you love it. And then you go to college and not every player loves the game like you love it. I'm talking about the elite skill, the elite competitors. Then you get here and you're like, whoa, there's more people like me. This is fantastic.